Have you ever said yes to something only to regret it a moment later? Someone asks for a quick favor, a demanding colleague, a toxic friend, an overbearing partner. They pressure you. Your heart races. You feel completely trapped. Before you can even think the words slip out, okay, I will do it. And then the heavy cloud of resentment sets in. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we let others pull our strings so easily? It is not because you are weak. It is not because you lack courage. It is simply because your brain is being temporarily hijacked. In those high-pressure moments, manipulators rely heavily on urgency. They want you to react instantly because when you react immediately, you operate entirely on instinct fear. Guilt, the exhausting desire to please. We have all felt like a helpless puppet in someone else's hands, wondering why we cannot just stand our ground. But what if the key to breaking this invisible trap is beautifully simple? What if all you need is 5 seconds of absolute intentional silence? Let us look at the science of why this works. Our brains operate on 2 distinct processing pathways. Psychologist Dr. Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel laureate from Princeton University, conceptualized this as System 1 and System 2 thinking. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. It is the system that snaps under pressure. When someone creates a false sense of urgency, they are targeting your System 1, wanting a rapid, conditioned response. But when you consciously enforce a 5-second delay, everything shifts. That gap allows your prefrontal cortex to take back control from your amygdala. You move from raw reaction to conscious reflection. Think of it as a circuit breaker for your mind. In 1978, a landmark Harvard study by Dr. Ellen Langer exposed this vulnerability. Researchers approached people waiting to use a library copy machine and asked, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make copies?" It was a meaningless reason. Of course, they needed to make copies. Yet, 93% complied because their brains were on autopilot. Caught in what Langer called mindlessness, they reacted to the structure of the request, not its substance. Manipulators exploit this same loophole daily. They throw words at you, create artificial pressure, and count on your brain staying on autopilot and your fear of social awkwardness. But 5 seconds of silence breaks the script. You refuse the automatic yes they're fishing for. The silence forces them to sit with their own request and feel its weight, and it gives you your power back. You stop being a reactive target and become an observer. Notice how uncomfortable a manipulator gets when you don't answer right away. They start talking more, trying to fill the silence. They might even soften their demand without you saying a word, because your silence is a quiet, unbreakable boundary. Why is it so hard to hold those 5 seconds? Because silence feels heavy like confrontation. We've been conditioned to believe an immediate response is polite, but when you rush to answer, you're prioritizing their comfort over your own well-being. A 2011 study from the University of Groningen found that a pause of just 4 seconds triggers social anxiety in the listener. The manipulator feels this shift instantly and realizes they're no longer in control. By pausing, you rewrite the power dynamic in real time, signaling that your boundaries are not up for negotiation. This is where true healing begins, realizing you don't owe anyone an instant explanation or your immediate energy. Your time is yours to give, not theirs to take. We often confuse kindness with compliance, believing a good person must always be accessible, but absolute accessibility is a direct path to burnout. Saying no to an unreasonable demand is not selfishness, it's self-preservation. How do we implement this without crushing guilt? It starts with a shift in perception. A request is not an emergency. It is merely an option. In a Stanford study, Dr. James Gross explored emotional regulation and found that people who pause to reappraise a stressful situation experience far less distress than those who suppress their reactions. The 5-second pause is your tool for cognitive reappraisal. Instead of asking, "How do I make them happy?" you ask, "Do I actually have capacity for this right now?" Here's what those 5 seconds look like in practice. When a manipulative request lands, don't scramble for an excuse or invent a lie. Just pause, count to 5, then deliver a clean response. "I need to check my schedule and get back to you." Or simply, "I cannot commit to that right now." Notice you didn't say, "I'm sorry." Apologizing subtly validates their belief that you owed them a yes. You don't owe them an apology for existing. The discomfort in those 5 seconds is the friction of breaking an old habit, the habit of being everyone's shield, the reliable one who never says no. But who shields you when you're breaking? Pausing gives you permission no one else will give you. Your urge to please isn't a virtue, it's an outdated survival mechanism. Constantly sacrificing your peace to avoid conflict invites chronic burnout. You're trading long-term sanity for a fleeting moment of comfort. The 5-second pause is your antidote. It reminds you that your worth doesn't depend on how useful you are to others. How do manipulators pull these strings? They use an emotional weapon known as F.O.G, fear, obligation, or guilt. "If you don't do this, everything will fall apart," is fear after everything I've done for you. "How can you say no?" is obligation. "I thought you were someone I could depend on," is guilt. These trigger a spike in cortisol, your heart races, your vision narrows, and you feel a biological urge to make the discomfort stop by saying yes. But that relief is an illusion, a high-interest loan against your future peace. Every yes to avoid their disappointment is a no to your own sanity. Your body registers every unexpressed no as a physical weight, manifesting as chronic fatigue, sleep disorders, and stress. The 5-second pause is the moment you choose to listen to your body instead of their demands. Using those 5 seconds disrupts a generational cycle of self-sacrifice. Many of us grew up believing our only value lay in what we could provide for others. We became fixers, human shields, a 2003 study by Dr. Kristen Neff at the University of Texas at Austin compared self-compassion to self-esteem and found that people who recognize their limits and treat themselves kindly don't become selfish, they develop greater emotional resilience, or lower anxiety and more stable self-worth, because their value isn't tied to external validation. A boundary doesn't mean I hate you, it means I love myself enough to stay healthy so I can love you authentically. A forced yes is resentment wrapped in a bow. True connection cannot breathe in resentment. It requires honesty, and honesty requires the courage to let there be silence. What happens inside your mind during those 5 seconds is real. Your heart might thud, your mind might scream at you to break the tension. Psychologists call this the extinction burst. When you stop feeding an old habit, your brain panics before it adapts. But if you hold the line, the wave recedes. A study from the University of Pennsylvania by Dr. Martin Seligman on learned helplessness showed how easily we become conditioned to believe we have no control over our boundaries. The 5-second pause is a quiet rebellion against that helplessness, proof to your subconscious that you do have a choice. You are the gatekeeper of your own life. Let the silence stretch. Let them realize your time is a finite resource that must be earned, not taken. You don't need to be aggressive or raise your voice. Your silence says, I am grounded and I will not be moved. How do people react when you don't answer immediately? Those who respect your well-being will wait. Manipulators will grow angry and may accuse you of being cold or distant. Their anger isn't proof you did something wrong, it's proof their manipulation is no longer working. It's the sound of their control cracking. A University of Michigan study found that when people began enforcing strict boundaries, their social circles underwent a healthy filtering process. Those who exploited them drifted away, while relationships based on mutual respect grew stronger by choosing the pause. You're curating your future ecosystem and teaching the world how to treat you. Every time you skip those 5 seconds, you trade a piece of your future for a moment of artificial peace. Choosing their comfort over your destiny. But consistently claiming this space rewires your brain. Neuroplasticity means your patterns aren't set in stone. You're carving a new neural pathway of sovereignty and self-respect. The sky doesn't fall when you stay silent. Instead, a profound inner quiet grows. You become the anchor. You don't have to fix everything or carry everyone else's emotional baggage. Your only true responsibility is to govern your own mind and protect your own peace. This isn't isolation, it's liberation, freeing energy for your own growth, passions, and health. How many times have you wished you'd stayed quiet during a conflict, not out of cowardice, but wisdom? We often feel a need to defend ourselves immediately, matching manipulators' aggressive energy with our own. But aggression is often a sign of vulnerability, while silence is a sign of unshakable presence. A well-known concept in family systems therapy is emotional triangulation. Manipulators draw you into a drama triangle, wanting you to play victim, persecutor, or rescuer. The intentional pause breaks that triangle. You step outside their frame and become a neutral observer. You don't need to win every argument or convince them of your perspective. You only need to preserve your internal alignment. Your power lies not in fighting back louder, but in remaining undisturbed. Your 5-second pause is an invisible shield. Their words hit it and fall harmlessly away. The boundaries you build today aren't walls, they're bridges that let the right people reach the real you. When you stop wearing the mask of the endless pleaser, you give others permission to be authentic too. A University of Rochester study on authentic self-expression found that people who expressed their true boundaries, even at temporary discomfort, reported significantly higher long-term intimacy and trust because they knew exactly where they stood with each other. Your silence isn't an attack, it's an investment in the relationship. A silent vow to keep it clean from resentment. The space you're reclaiming isn't empty, it's where your creativity and joy live. Constantly reacting to others scatters your energy, where the 5-second pause gathers it back. Psychologists call this developing an internal locus of control. With an external locus, your happiness depends on how others treat you, and you feel helpless. With an internal locus, you realize you hold the power over what enters your mind and where your energy goes. You start seeing a manipulative person's urgency as their own unresolved anxiety, one you don't have to carry for them. Carry this 5-second weapon with you everywhere. It's the gentle, unshakable boundary that returns you to your true center. You are no longer the person who breaks their own heart to keep everyone else happy. You have cut the strings of urgency. You are the author of your own peace and the guardian of your own energy. When pressure comes, remember you have the right to step back and let the world wait. How will you use your next 5 seconds of silence? Share your story in the comments. Your journey to healing can guide someone else out of the dark. You are worthy of the space you take up in this world.